It's time to check out an inexpensive moped-style e-bike. This is the Hovsco HovGtrs. It's got full suspension, they say it can go 32 miles per hour, and it costs about $1,000. Can a bike like this actually be any good or any fun? Today we're gonna take it for a ride and find out. Okay, so what do we have here? This is the Hovsco HovGtrs, a moped-style fat tire e-bike with a 750-watt hub motor, suspension up front and out back, and a giant motorcycle-style headlight. Yep, these are the types of bikes you often see teenagers cruising on around the beach or in their neighborhood. This style of bike is super popular with new riders. It's kind of like what BMX bikes were back in the 80s. Now there are all sorts of different styles of e-bikes on the market: folding, commuter, cargo, and these moped style bikes. And a huge range of prices, from high-end expensive bikes like a $3,000 Super 73 down to sub-500 Ford bikes on Amazon. This one's somewhere in between, coming in at $999. Okay, so let's take a close look at the features and specs here. Now we've got a decent looking moped inspired design going on here. It's kind of shorter and stubbier than a Super 73. Coming in at 65 inches, it's not quite as long as some other moped style e-bikes that I've ridden. Now Hovsco says that this can fit riders from 5'2" to 6'4". Now I'm 6'3", and it's really easy to get onto this bike, not very high off the ground, but when I'm pedaling, my knees do get pretty close to the handlebars. So this is a 48-volt bike. It's got a 750-watt hub motor in the back, which Hovsco says provides a peak power of 1,500 watts and 90 Newton meters of torque, and we'll test out the acceleration and power when we ride. Down here we've got a 15 amp hour battery, which seems like a pretty decent size for this bike. There is a trend of bike companies integrating batteries into the frame, but Hovsco is going the old school route here with a separate battery pack. The battery can be removed, and we've got a key to lock and unlock it. And there's a power switch for the battery right here on the side. Hovsco says that this bike has a range of 65 miles, and usually manufacturer claims are often quite optimistic. Most often they use pedal assist level 1 to achieve these claims, so actual range can vary quite a bit. They also say this bike can go 32 miles per hour, and we'll test that out when we ride. The bike is pretty hefty at 72 pounds, but it's not quite as heavy as some other moped-style e-bikes that I've ridden. They rate the payload capacity at 450 pounds, and with this wide seat, you can probably fit a couple people on here. Some moped-style e-bikes only give you 1 gear, but we have 7 here with this Shimano gear set. There are 5 levels of pedal assist, and we have a typical cadence sensor for the motor here. We've got a thumb throttle on the left side of these BMX-style handlebars. In terms of brakes, we've got Core Ride brand hydraulic brakes here with 180mm rotors, and we'll do a brake test when we ride to see how they do. There's suspension up front, which doesn't appear to be adjustable, and we have very simple suspension in the rear. Now when you look at this bike, it's pretty easy to tell that there's no real space for cargo here, but there are a couple bolt holes back here, so you could probably put a basket on the back. In terms of tires, we got 20x4 Chaoyang brand fat tires running on mag wheels, so you don't have to worry about bending or breaking spokes. Plastic fenders front and rear. We got a very large motorcycle style headlight here. We got a tail light, flashing brake light, and even turn signals. Unfortunately, no bell or horn though. Now when it comes to assembly, this HovGtrs was mostly easy to put together. It took me about an hour with simple hand tools. The only issue was that the seat was very difficult to get on, and the brake cable needed a couple zip ties to allow it to not interfere with the wheel. Other than that, all good. And this Hovsco bike comes with a 2-year warranty. Now, if you want to buy this bike, please use my discount code and purchase link in the description below. That will save you some money, but don't do that just yet. Let's first take this thing for a ride and see how it does. All right, so it's always great to start off with an acceleration test. Now, I have unlocked this thing to class 3 speed, so it should go at least 28 miles per hour. This thing has 1,500 watts of peak power, or they claim it does, 90 Newton meters of torque. Let's see how it does off the line. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, that's not bad. We're up to 14 miles per hour. Okay, we've hit 20. Let's see if we can get 28. I got a little bit of a bump right here. Let's see how it does over this big bump. 25, 26, 27. I don't think it's gonna quite hit 28. It looks like 27 miles per hour is our top speed. So let's test out the brakes. Actually, the brakes are really good. Well, you can actually lift the front tire off the ground when you're getting going. Wheelbase on this thing isn't very long. Yeah, so a good amount of power, good amount of speed you can get out of this thing. It doesn't quite hit the claimed 32 miles per hour top speed, but 27's not bad. So I think what we should do next is see how this does on a hill. Okay, here we are on our 8% grade. Let's see how it does on this hill. Throttle only in 3, 2, 1, go. actually doing pretty well. Felt a decent amount of torque off the line. Doesn't seem like we're gonna have too much problem getting up this hill. It's kind of stopped at about 14 miles per hour, but that's better than some bikes I've taken up this hill. Like I said, 8% grade, so it's not crazy steep, but something you might encounter on your ride. So one thing that I wish I had on this bike is a bell or a horn. Now, when you have a bike that's this quick, you're gonna want that, I think, especially if you're going to be riding around a lot of cars, like I tend to do here in Los Angeles. But I do like the fact that we have turn signals here, which is very nice. All right, so let's talk about pedaling. You have that 7-speed Shimano gear set here, which is the same as what I've seen on so many bikes at this price point, but it's great. I never have an issue with it. Let's put it down to like pedal assist 1 here so we can slow down a bit. So I think one of the things that we do need to talk about here is that the kind of geometry of this bike for pedaling, especially for somebody my height, I'm 6'3". You can see that my knees are like coming close to the handlebars here. And it's not a really very efficient pedaling position. Let's see, you get past about 17 miles per hour. Now the pedals are not even propelling the bike. Now you're just ghost pedaling. You're just telling the motor to turn on, but the movement of the pedals is not actually propelling the bike. Yeah, anything over about 17 miles per hour, you might as well just use the throttle. So if this is a bike that you're gonna be commuting on or you're gonna be trying to get places quickly, my guess is that most of the time you're not even gonna be bothering to pedal, you're just gonna use the throttle. If I owned this bike, that's probably what I would do. But yeah, that's not to say that that's bad. There's a perfectly good use case for this type of bicycle. I just don't think pedaling is gonna be like your top priority. So in terms of the pedal assist, it has a cadence sensor, which basically tells the motor to turn on or off. It doesn't detect how hard you're pedaling or anything like that, like a torque sensor would do. And you know, it's kind of what you'd expect for a cadence sensor. It kind of has like that on-off feel, which for a bike like this, I don't think it's a big deal because like I said, I think most of the time you're just gonna be using the throttle. All right, so I think the thing we should talk about next is stability and handling and the ride. One of the things that I like about fat tire bikes is that you've got a lot of grip. You've got a lot of rubber that's meeting the road. It helps with stability, it helps with the ride quality, helps soak up the bumps. And if you're making moves like this, it's super stable. Now, obviously there are downsides to fat tire bikes. Efficiency is gonna be lower because you just have a lot more weight, a lot more rolling resistance. So there are pros and cons to a fat tire bike versus a non-fat tire bike. I think the other thing that sort of gives this a very stable feel is that it's not really a light bike. This is a 72-pound bicycle. I think that weight actually kind of helps, gives it more of a stable, solid feel. So that weight will also be a detriment if you want to move this bike, you want to lift it, if you want to carry it up and down stairs or throw it in the back of a car or something like that. All right, so we're gonna come up here on a pretty big bump in this road. So I think that's a good time to talk about comfort. Suspension up front is not adjustable. You've got suspension in the back, also not adjustable. And it's a pretty simple setup, but does a decent job of keeping the bumps in check. The seat is pretty firm, but the seat is also quite comfortable. So I think that's another thing that's gonna make this pretty enjoyable to have on long rides. Now, in terms of riding position, this is really quite comfortable. You've got, you know, this BMX style handlebar here with a mostly straight across design. You can adjust this a little bit depending on how close you need it to you. So yeah, so overall a very comfortable bike to ride. This would definitely be something that would be quite nice over a long ride, assuming that you had enough battery power to get you there. And one thing that I didn't have a chance to test out today is the 450-pound cargo capacity, which seems pretty nuts. But yeah, if you had a friend you wanted to ride on the back of this thing, the seat's big enough, there's a grab bar on the back, you can hold on to that. And then of course, if you actually wanted to like commute on this thing, get to school or get to a job or something like that, the lack of storage is going to be an issue, but it does look like you can probably bolt a basket onto the back of this thing. All right, I think the thing we should do next is find some dirt. I think there's a dirt trail not too far away from here where I can test this off-road to see how well we do. All right, here we are on a very easy dirt trail. It's pretty bumpy, but there's no gigantic hills here, so this will be a good place to test out the suspension, test out the grip, see if we fall, see if we hurt ourselves, that kind of thing. All right, let's see how we do. 3, 2, 1, go. We are going 20 miles per hour, and that seems quite fast on a dirt trail like this. But yeah, suspension's doing a good job soaking everything up. Again, you know, for a budget moped style e-bike, it's pretty decent. Let's go head over here. There's a lot more bumps over here. Let's see how we do through this little section. Okay, it's getting a lot bumpier. Oh my goodness. This is ridiculous. Now, I've ridden through here on e-bikes without suspension at all, and I've nearly broken my back. So it's nice to have suspension here, even though it's a pretty basic setup. But yeah, even through this dirt, we got a lot of grip. Oh my gosh, this is so bumpy. Well, I'm having a ton of fun. Pretty decent amount of grip out of these Chow Yang tires. Yeah, you can skid around a little bit if you're not careful, but I could totally see new riders, teenagers, young kids having a ton of fun on this thing. But it is quick enough that you do have to be careful. All right, so we've gone just over 10 miles. We still have 3 bars left on the battery. So yeah, I do feel like 20 miles could be achievable if you're doing throttle only. And one of the reasons why I like this type of bike is that it's got a very low center of gravity, so it is easy to kind of make pretty quick maneuvers, chuck it around corners. Can we get a little bit of air off of this going 25 miles an hour? Let's try it. Oh yeah, that was fun. Let's try it again. This is the day I get hurt, right? Isn't it? Okay, I'll get a little bit of air off the speed bump. Ready? Oh, nice. Yeah, this bike is hilarious. I dig it. All right, so how much does all of this cost you? So this Hovsco HovGtrs comes in at a reasonable $999. It seems like that might be in a sweet spot where you're not risking your safety with a cheap no-name Amazon bike and you're not murdering your wallet with a $3,000 to $4,000 high-end bike. Yeah, this isn't as nice as some of those high-end bikes, but it very well might be a sweet spot for a new or young rider. Could be a useful tool to get to school, to tool around the neighborhood, or to take to a campground, or just to bomb around on some easy trails. Now, if you want to purchase this bike, please use my coupon code and purchase link in the description below. That's going to be it for today. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon. Whoa!